Greetings, player I've never met before. Welcome to Abydos. Today, it's a time for another Minecraft story time, and we'll be telling the story of BloodHoney, a player you've never heard of before, but he was my best friend here for a long time. But this is a long story, so let's light a fire and get comfortable. This is The Legend of BloodHoney, a player bio by Greavier2. Written on January 7th of 2021. The passage of time has seen the end of many players, but very few have left their mark as much as the legendary player known as BloodHoney. Being in Abydos the first day we touched down, he worked hours a day. Little did we know how this would end. BloodHoney's story begins in Alexandria. Greavier met BloodHoney on a Minecraft group and extended him an invite. He was extremely proactive and wasted no time joining players in a revival of the North region that was taking place at the time. BloodHoney was the third player to join this revival and would come to bring his friend Lode Wanderer and bringing up the North back to 4 players strong once again after many years of vacancy. Blood established a base inside of a mountain and worked well with the North. However, Blood joined Alexandria in its final moments. It would only last about 4 weeks before coming to an abrupt end. This shook the people of Alexandria. We discussed migrating to lands controlled by somebody else and establishing a base together. All remaining citizens of Alexandria would base together and establish themselves in a new community. However, Blood was one of the biggest supporters of starting her own land again. He wanted to trust Greavier2 and together we could rebuild. On September 28, 2020, we touched upon these lands that would come to be named Abydos. Blood was in within the first few minutes. We found a village close by and began setting up our community base together. Blood was busy from the start. Gathering resources, he started a small base on the hill beside the village. It was a small underground base. He would tame a horse that would be named Stewie. During that horse's life, it was never beaten in a race. It sadly only survived about 4 weeks. Blood was the first to locate the abandoned mine shaft under the spawn area, and within it, he located an enchanted golden apple. He was unaware of its rarity, but was happy to donate it to the museum once he was told what he found. The first donation as well. He was also the first player to locate the woodland mansion near spawn and received 3 Totem of Undyings. He donated 1 to the future museum. The amount of world firsts Blood is responsible for are too numerous to list. Blood was there when the Great Ender Dragon was first felled. He was there when the raids on the End Cities first took place, and it was even Blood who discovered the End Portal in the first place. He participated in server events, was extremely active, and was one of the most well-liked players in Abydos. So when the first mayoral elections of Abydos were held, he announced he would be running for mayor against Zelda. Blood banded together with Greavier2 and created the world's first map art, a campaign poster known well in Abydos. It would read, "Vote for Blood." Some of these campaign posters can still be found in Abydos. Blood ran a very good campaign and gained the support of many in Abydos. It was clear he was proud of Abydos and wanted to see its continued success. During the debates, he countered well. He would gain the support and votes of half the citizens. The race was extremely close and nobody knowing who would win this historical election. But during a debate, Blood would announce his resignation from the race and congratulated Zelda for the win. This immediately rippled through the world and Blood's supporters. Greavier2 would reach out to Blood. The conversation was short. Greavier2 explained he had a lot of support behind him and that Blood's concern was not being able to pay the salaries, but Greavier assured him that he would be able to cover those salaries and plans could be made without imposing a tax. Blood, feeling more confident, resumed the race, and his supporters were very grateful to have him back in the race. This was a small hiccup, but did not impact the support for Blood. A few more weeks passed and things began to change with Blood, and he had less time in Abydos. The details of what happened next are not fully clear, but Blood may have threw the election. He sent Zelda a message in private stating he was going to vote for her, as he was not able to be mayor. He said to not tell anyone, and she didn't. Eventually, Blood would reach out to Grievier, telling him that he messaged Zelda about voting for her. Now, this was very confusing. He stated he would be voting for himself. It is unknown why this was all said, and unknown who he truly voted for. But on the election day, Blood lost by a single vote. If Blood did indeed vote for Zelda, it was his vote that got the win for her. Blood congratulated her and stated he would run again in the future. However, Blood's play began to slow even more and was at a slow point when news would be made that would shake the citizens of Abydos. A new law was passed restricting private farms. The law passed affect everyone in Abydos, but this change impacted Blood the hardest. It would mean the deconstruction of many hours worth of work, as his house contained extensive private farms. Blood wanted to be self-sufficient, and he was. He was also very generous with his materials, using many of his materials for public projects and pricing materials in the shops extremely low. So naturally, this change did not sit well with him. However, he embraced the change and stated he would adapt. Prices of certain materials would change, but this was only fair, as production would certainly be impacted for Blood's #1 export, honey. Blood took great pride in beekeeping and started farming honey in large quantities. He loved his bee rooms. He started producing limited runs of certain honey bottles. Many of these were drank as they were fairly novelty, but as he would continue to produce these bottles, they became more and more of a collector's item for some players, and some of these bottles still exist, but very few will ever be put into circulation again. Blood eventually announced the start of a monthly bottle release, with all sold bottles being destroyed. So if you wanted one, get them during the month before they're gone. It's not known exactly how many of these bottles were produced. Grievier was gifted 6 when the release was made as an avid collector of the previous releases. 27 were placed up for sale, with 1 on display. This puts estimates at 34 bottles in this run. The store sold a total of 8 of these bottles during the January release, but the last 19 were bought out by 1 buyer on February 6th. But what caused this spike in demand for this novelty product? Well, these would be the last 19 bottles ever made of any release. Because on February 6th, 2021, 6 months after Blood stepped down into Abydos soil, he left the world never to return again. And the method in which he left would shock everyone. It was early evening and the world was quiet. Only a few citizens were working when Blood joined. This caused no alarms, of course, and barely went noticed, as it was such a common occurrence to see Blood come and go. However, this would be Blood's final visit. A few moments after he joined, a warning was sent to all players that 2 pets were just killed. Both killed at the same time, both killed by TNT. Grievier checked to see who was around and immediately removed all permissions from Blood. Blood left the server a few seconds later. This was very unusual. An investigation was made immediately. After arriving at his base, it was found with significant explosive damage. The main floor was leveled, and he had clearly just began the 2nd floor. Luckily, the slaughter of his pet saved more of his house from destruction. Debris was everywhere. Contents of entire chests were scattered around the explosion sites, including full shulkers of items. It was evident new explosions destroyed many of the items already. Grievier and Zelda were the first to examine the house and began the cleanup. The fallen items were mostly recovered and repairs of the house quickly began. Grievier was a good friend of Blood's and knew that his home contained several priceless artifacts in the underground safe. These items were not gold and diamonds. These treasures were much rarer than diamonds and gold. These were items of historical importance, such as the first AFK fishing rod, some original dyed leather armor, and his first bed and diamond, as well as many other firsts. But Grievier knew these items were in the basement where no sign of explosions were present. However, one artifact of great importance was not in the safe. This was the map art that Grievier had gifted Blood in the Secret Santa, a 14-hour piece of 420 art. Griever made no copies of this map art. It was made one of a kind, and once locked, the map art was cleared so it could not be remade. It was gifted to Blood as a one of a kind, and Blood never made copies. The only one was on the second floor. Griever too went upstairs to check the spot, a place he had frequented many times, as it was a meeting spot for Blood and his guests. It was at the exact spot an assassination attempt was made on Blood and Griever previously. The room was devastated by the blasts. The farms that were there were completely destroyed, water pouring down the ruins of the main floor. However, the explosions did not completely destroy the second floor. The damage stopped right before the wall containing Blood's record collection and the map art. Half of the record collection was gone from a recent blast, however the damage stopped only a few meters away from the map art. It was intact. Blood's Pigstep record was still in the jukebox. The next explosion would have wiped out the map art and the rest of the record collection. It was a miracle. Griever 2 reclaimed the map art, and it has never been displayed in Abydos again. It is displayed within a private collection of historical artifacts for protective purposes. Blood's Pigstep was donated to the casino, and the only pet still alive was Lucifer, a longtime pet of Blood, a pet that waits for his owner's return to this day. Blood's house was repaired as best as possible, and many items were donated to the community storage. Others were put into storage lockers for eventual auctioning off. Griever built Blood a grave worthy of his legacy. Blood was buried in a tomb made of quartz and a block of honey recovered from his house. He was buried with many of the artifacts contained in his safe. A beehive and the original campaign poster he made hang on the walls. His pet Lucifer was brought over by boat and now sits within the tomb patiently awaiting his master's return. The tomb is now sealed up and his artifacts will remain with him forever. The leather armor and his original AFK fishing rod are kept in the museum. The mineshafts dug by Blood will possibly never be used, but will always remain a reminder of his work in the spawn map. The ink generated from the squid farm he built will supply Abydos for many years to come. And BloodHoney's legacy will live on in the world of Abydos forever. The players who had met him will begin to dwindle as the server ages, but his mark on this land will be permanent. The street Blood Alley will remain a reminder of the players who knew Blood. Shining Bug, the daughter of BloodHoney, and the Lones still have their homes built on that street. The original horse stable that contained Stewie only contained 2 horses when Blood left, an unnamed horse and another named Godike. The history of Godike is mostly unknown, but it was estimated he replaced Stewie after his untimely death. There is one legendary artifact that did not end up surviving Blood's departure. The first netherite pickaxe of Abydos, a Fortune 3 pickaxe. It was forged a few days after the world was first pioneered. Sadly, its name is lost in time and the tool itself lost forever. Of the 12 named green shulkers, only 8 were recovered. 1 to 4 were never located and are estimated to be in his ender chest. BloodHoney will go down an absolute legend, the stories of his deeds passed down to each new generation of Abydos. Abydos was lucky to have a citizen like Blood, and he will not soon be forgotten. If you sat here and listened to me tell you the story of BloodHoney, a 50-page biography about a player you've never met before, I am very grateful and thank you for your time. And I also want to take you on a little bit more of a tour, but first, if you'd please subscribe to my channel, I am trying to grow it and would be very grateful if you'd hit that subscribe button. Now let's take you on a little bit of a tour of some of the last historical sites of the player BloodHoney. Here we are at the Abydos spawn map, and right here we pay homage to BloodHoney with his original campaign poster hanging out on this board. On the other side it's the message board. And here we've got the map, and that's our actual spawn hut. Here we are in my cellar, some of you might remember from the house tour, and here in the rare vintages, we have a lot of the original BloodHoney stuff. This is the root beer that I believe was the January release, to be honest. These are all different things. This was the actual label bottle. I clearly had some farm just go off in the background. And was this stuff? No, this is other people's stuff. Now, the thing about Abydos is players can buy property and do whatever they want with it, basically. And right across from me used to be BloodHoney's house, but that house and like 5 houses that were all here got bought out by this player right here who built this massive mansion. So BloodHoney's house is gone, as well as Blood Alley. However, we can still access the basement. Holy crap. Okay, so this is the basement that actually was the first section I think you went to. It was, I can't fully remember. It joins up to that tunnel system. And then when you go through here, you realize that we're really in sort of the ruins of what was BloodHoney's house. There's discombobulated rooms. What was up here? Some sort of a fish tank. Was this the bee room? No, this couldn't have been the bee room. Could it? If this was the bee room... No, this is the bee room, because this was his secret room. Wow. Holy cow, this place has been cleaned out. This place is... Holy cow, I can't even tell the difference of this place. This place had like flowers all over it, and yeah, this definitely looks a lot different. Okay, so what else? This is crazy. This is kind of confusing. Oh, we have a staircase. Where's the staircase go? What's here? This is interesting. Oh, okay, so this joins up to here. Oh, this was his wool farm. This was a wool farm down here. And that's been cleaned out, yeah. So these are sort of the last remnants of what used to be his house. Here's a massive underground tunnel that was dug out to originally be a sort of a metro system for Abydos, but it was kind of abandoned and never used, and he put a ton of work with it. The boat tunnel still exists too, sandwiched between 2 houses. Oh, I have no boat. This goes to, oh, maybe this is boats. Yes, it has 1 boat. We were destined to take this boat trip, guys. All right, so this goes to his farm, his ink farm, which was being used to generate the black dye used for his shop. Right, we can go up further. Wait, who built this little boat? I've never seen this little boat before. This little thing is new. This. What a strange little boat. I love it. Here we are at the Abydos Museum, and let's go check out his donations, because I believe they're still in the donation chest. Yep, there it is, the first enchanted apple. I thought he had a totem in here as well. One of his chests, though. Whoa, a whole bunch of BloodHoney stuff. Let's check out what's in here. BloodHoney's Frost Walkers, black tea, honey slacks, AFK fish from Rod, BloodHoney's mega base. Oh, that's the map to his mega base. That's right. Never finished it, just got the starting floor of it. Enjoy, one-of-a-kind sign. Okay, this tour is getting long enough, so we've got to cut to the chase and go to the actual tomb itself. This was the first kind of mausoleum I built, and this honey block actually was used for part of his fence. I think he had a fence it was in. And Lucifer's in here. I had to boat him all the way here because of course I couldn't lead him or anything. And there's a vote for blood sign. These were on his house. Remembrance Day. Oh, this was one of very few poppies given out on Remembrance Day in 2020. B, I believe that B Oh, that bee probably came from a hive. Is there a hive? Yeah, there's a hive in here. So yeah, it would have been one of his bees. Halloween maze game 2020. Welcome to the city. Your bud G2. Wow, that's obviously the original letter I gave him. This is a really old map of Abydos. Like, this is way before there's even a city all over around here. This is a really old map. Okay, it's scaled a bit differently, but you can see it's definitely a lot more populated now. So now time to go into the contents of his coffin. Oh, we have a bunch of stuff in here. So we have a bunch of Vote for Blood posters. His shovel, that's actually really amazing. We recovered a shovel. I don't know how the heck we managed to get that. First sleep. Oh, September 29th, 2020. That was his bed. That was in his treasure room. BloodHoney's little hoe. This is probably from Secret Santa. His first emerald ash. That I put in there. I put in that in most graves. First apple. Root beer. So that was his release, the January release. First skelly head. Obviously, these are a lot of things recovered from his treasure room that I was talking about in the story. Vote for Blood. This is a bottle he released when he was campaigning for mayor. Honey blocks, probably recovered from his house. First diamond. So he's easily got the most artifacts we recovered because of the fact that he kind of went halfway through his base and dipped. I am super duper humbled for anybody who watched this video all the way to the end and allowed me to tell you the story of who was a great player and who I think more people should know about. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so. I do plan on telling more stories of more players and more server shenanigans in the future.